CTV3 News. Police pursuit in Orange Walk leaves suspected burglars empty-handed and on the run as they abandon 2 flat-screen TVs and their motorcycle. As power bills soar across Belize, Minister Kevin Bernard says sector challenges have been years in the making. And proposed MOUs set to strengthen Belize-Honduras healthcare collaboration. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Thursday, August 27, 2026.
Money travels fast, so make sure you check it before you spend it. Here are 4 easy ways to know your money is real. Look, feel, tilt, and check. Look closely at your note by holding it to the light to see the watermark and the note value. Notice how the see-through image completes itself perfectly. Feel for authenticity. Run your fingers over the raised portrait and the bars on the edges. 1 bar for the $2 and up to 6 bars for the $100. Tilt the note to see the hidden value appear. Look for the moving images on the security thread and holographic shimmer on higher denominations. Check closely. Use UV light or a magnifying glass to find hidden images and microtext. Remember, handling counterfeit money is illegal. If you spot a fake, report it to the police immediately. Look, feel, tilt, and check. Know your money. Check it before you spend it. A message from the Central Bank of Belize.
In Belize, the Public Utilities Commission works every day amid the rhythm of economic activities to ensure homes, businesses, and communities have access to necessary utility services. Through regulations, the Public Utilities Commission powers progress, connect communities, encourage new ideas and bold innovation, manage consumer rights, guide change, and serves in the best interests of national development for a future that benefits us all. Every decision is informed by evidence and guided by regulations and the law. So if and when changes arise in any of Belize's utility sectors, including situations that may affect competition, regulations and laws allow the PUC to carefully assess those changes, ensuring consumers are treated fairly while maintaining a sustainable utility sector. The Public Utilities Commission, guided by the law, informed by evidence, working to ensure fair and sustainable utility services for Belize.
Good evening. With your news also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7, I am Joanna Rodriguez. Police are investigating a suspected burglary after 2 men abandoned a motorcycle and 2 newly purchased flat-screen televisions during a late-night chase in Orange Walk town. The incident occurred at approximately 2:40 a.m. on Thursday, August 27th, as officers conducted mobile patrols along Liberty Avenue. During the patrol, one of the officers reportedly noticed a black Leafan motorcycle traveling towards Palmer Road. The motorcycle was being driven by a man wearing a black sweater and black shorts, while a second man who was seated as the passenger was dressed in a black shirt and short blue jeans. The passenger was reportedly carrying 2 large boxes believed to contain flat-screen televisions. Police alerted the motorcycle rider to stop, but instead of complying, the rider allegedly accelerated, prompting police to pursue the motorcycle. Approximately 50 feet into the chase, the 2 men reportedly discarded the boxes along the roadside before losing control of the motorcycle. The suspects then abandoned the motorcycle and fled on foot, managing to escape from the area. The 2 boxes were recovered and were found to contain flat-screen televisions valued at more than $500 each. Following the discovery, police began checking businesses in the surrounding area to determine where the televisions may have been stolen. Up to News Time investigations continue. The debate over Belize's rising electricity costs continues, with residents across the country expressing concern over significantly higher bills. Area Representative for Orange Walk East and Minister of Health and Wellness, Honorable Kevin Bernard, says the challenges facing the country's electricity sector have been developing for years and should have been addressed sooner. Minister Bernard acknowledged the frustration among consumers, but says the government is now working to address the situation and reduce electricity costs for Belizean households.
Address this issue.
You know, this energy crisis, I don't like to go back to the past, because people will say, oh, they blame the UDP, but you have to lay blame where it is. If there were a serious attention made to address the energy issue way back then, we wouldn't have had all of these problems. But this government has been making significant attempts and strides to ensuring that we address these problems. The solar project that will be coming on board pretty soon, and I know, again, I can't go into it because I don't know all the detail in terms of the energy project, but I know that there's great steps being taken, and we are almost there, where we will see that also coming into play. But it's unfortunate, of course, that where we depend on most of our energy from CFE in Mexico, Belize needs to start to look at self-sufficiency, and I think that is why the solar project is very important. That we are putting our best foot forward to ensure that can come. But again, I think that Mr. Ambassador Young, who is now the executive chair of BL, has taken that BL now and start and pushing forward. I think that with him at the helm, there's going to be a lot of major changes, a lot of improvements, and I say, to me, I always say, let's give people the opportunity and the time for them to showcase what benefits can come. Government, of course, and I as a representative, of course, I have to empathize with our people at the same time for these blackouts that we have been seeing recently. And while there's a lot of other perceptions out there, all I can tell you, I think that when CFE, when Mexico have issues, who do I think they want cut off? They are cut off the other people, and then cut off themselves first. And so that's what we face. We now need to ensure that we can provide and produce more energy in this country, and that's why.
Minister Bernard today also clarified that ministers do not receive a utility allowance as some may believe.
What we get in terms of telephone and allowance and so for the month, that has nothing to do with pay. My pay, my bill through my salary. So just like every working Belizean, I get a salary, I pay my bill. But I mean, that's what we do.
Last week, Prime Minister John Briceño went on an official visit to Honduras, where he met with Honduran President Nasri Asfura and other senior government officials. The Prime Minister was accompanied by CEO in the Office of the Prime Minister, Amalia May, Minister of Health and Wellness, Kevin Bernard, and his CEO, Julio Sabido, CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Oscar Arnold, and Belize's Charge d'Affaires in Honduras, Richard Vinelli. Speaking today, Minister Bernard revealed that health cooperation was among the matters discussed during the visit. He says the two governments held preliminary talks on a proposed Memorandum of Understanding MOU that could pave the way for greater collaboration in health care.
Visit, but part of it was for me to be able to also put out there that propose a MOU that we could share with the Honduran government. I know back in 1991, I think it was, they had an MOU where they were cultural and educational exchange. So we're saying, let's see if we could work on a medical exchange program, not just for us to attract doctors from Honduras, because they themselves, as I have said, they themselves have human resource shortages. Human shortages in health does not only apply to Belize, it applies to everybody across the region. So all of us have similar challenges. However, they have the opportunities where our Belizean doctors can access their education system as well to do their residency program. And so that's the type of exchange we are talking about. That's the type of discussion we are having, where we could have that mutual exchange of health professionals within both countries. And so, but again, that is just a start of a discussion. The technical people will have to meet on both ends, and then through diplomatic channel, we will finalize that sometime.
Minister Bernard says Belize is also exploring similar partnerships with other countries, including the Philippines and Nicaragua, particularly in areas where Belize can benefit from specialized expertise and professional exchanges.
In fact, the president that we spoke to is the Minister of Health, and so that's his responsibility. And he was very receptive, very supportive, and was eager to say, let's get our two countries together to work on an MOU so that we could have that exchange worked out. So I'm very optimistic. It was a wonderful meeting, I can tell you that. But I'm not going to get into all the other details. I'm just speaking on the health side that we had, and the two Secretary of State, that Secretary of Health that were there, which are his Vice Ministers of Health, who I have a good relation with because we constantly meet in terms of the Comisca, as I am the current pro temp chair for Comisca as well, and they sit in that body, and so we constantly had discussions with them. But again, as I said, they have been very supportive. When it comes to the Philippines, we have been very supportive. I think they're just working on some logistical issues for them to be able to come. Yeah, we should be getting some Philippine nurses, and then we're discussing with Nicaragua as well in terms of how we could attract some of these doctors who are specialized to come in and.
The minister says these discussions form part of a broader effort to strengthen Belize's healthcare system by building international partnerships and creating opportunities for knowledge and skills exchange among health professionals. The Public Service Union PSU is calling on public officers to stay out of a newly introduced Neo People pilot program, accusing the Ministry of Public Service of moving ahead with the initiative without first securing the union's agreement. In a circular to its members, the PSU said it recently learned that Neo People had contacted selected public officers directly through their private email addresses. Those officers were invited to take part in the initial phase of the program and complete the employee onboarding process, including reviewing and updating their personal details. The union maintains that the move goes against its repeated requests for the program to be put on hold until proper and meaningful consultations are completed. According to the PSU, proceeding with the pilot under the current circumstances amounts to a demonstration of bad faith.
We submit a private email through CETO for use by the Human Resource Information Office for the delivery of pay slips. That is why public officers gave up their private emails. The public officers did not consent or did not give approval to the government of Belize to disseminate these private emails to a third party. Under what basis and under what law did the John Briceño administration give up people's private email to a third-party institution? And under what law now does this institution believe that they can write public officers to their private email and tell them that they have been chosen to participate in a pilot, and as such, you must submit your information?
According to the president of the PSU, Dean Flowers, the union had already outlined the several requirements that must be satisfied before public officers should be registered on the system. These were presented in a letter dated August 6th. Among the PSU's conditions is the suspension of employee registration until a legally binding Memorandum of Understanding governing the Human Resources Management Information System, HRMIS, is concluded.
So we must reach an agreement on who is collecting the data, how the data will be managed, how it will be used, ensuring that it won't be monetized, and ensuring that it is safe, and establishing all the mechanisms that are necessary in the event that there is a breach.
The union is also demanding full disclosure of the Neo People contract in response to a Freedom of Information Act request it submitted in March. In addition, it wants the ministry to appoint a data privacy officer as required by the Data Protection Act. Other conditions include written assurance that public officers will not face disciplinary measures for refusing biometric enrollment, disclosure of a completed data protection impact assessment, and evidence that employees have provided the necessary consent in accordance with the Data Protection Act. Belizean households have faced another increase in the cost of living in July, with consumer prices rising 4.1% compared with the same month in 2025, as fuel, housing-related expenses, and food prices continue to put pressure on household budgets. The latest figures from the Statistical Institute of Belize, SIB, show that the National Consumer Price Index reached 125.3 in July, compared with 120.4 recorded 1 year earlier. Three major spending groups, transport, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, and food and non-alcoholic beverages, were responsible for more than 3/4 of the country's overall inflation during the month. Insurance and financial services were the only category in which consumers did not face higher prices. Transport recorded the largest annual increase, with prices climbing 12.4% from July 2025. The increase was primarily linked to significantly higher fuel prices. The cost of passenger transportation also increased substantially. Services such as bus and taxi fares, along with international air travel, recorded a 15.5% increase compared with the previous year. The housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels category recorded a 3.9% increase year over year. The rise was attributed largely to higher rental expenses, as well as increases in electricity and water tariffs introduced earlier this year. Water costs also moved higher. A household using approximately 4,500 gallons per month now pays $91.30, up from $86.38 a year earlier. The latest inflation figures highlight the continued impact of transportation and essential household expenses on Belizean consumers, with fuel and utility costs remaining among the strongest contributors to the country's rising cost of living. Coming up next, Belizean consumers are feeling slightly more confident about the economy. Stay tuned.
In Belize, the Public Utilities Commission works every day amid the rhythm of economic activities to ensure homes, businesses, and communities have access to necessary utility services. Through regulations, the Public Utilities Commission powers progress, connect communities, encourage new ideas and bold innovation, manage consumer rights, guide change, and serves in the best interests of national development for a future that benefits us all. Every decision is informed by evidence and guided by regulations and the law. So if and when changes arise in any of Belize's utility sectors, including situations that may affect competition,
Cisco partner, applying system orders tailored to your needs. From startups to large enterprises and renowned institutions, we serve every corner of the country because no industry can afford to fall behind on technology. Let's take your business to the next level. Contact us today at 610-2494. Cellular World Business Solutions, your reliable partner in business success.
After months of decline, Belizean consumers are feeling slightly more confident about the economy, with national consumer confidence recording its first increase of the year in July. According to the Statistical Institute of Belize, consumer confidence in Belize rose 3.6% to 42.6, reflecting improvements across all three components of the index. The present component increased from 37.6 to 40.2, indicating that consumers were less pessimistic about current macroeconomic conditions and their household finances compared with the previous year. Meanwhile, the durable goods component climbed from 34.4 to 35.5, signaling a modest reduction in pessimism about purchasing major household items. At the other end of the scale, Stan Creek recorded the largest decline, with confidence falling 10.7% from 43 to 38.4. Urban consumers recorded a 6.5% increase in confidence, rising from 40.1 to 42.8. Rural confidence grew more modestly, rising 1.4% from 41.9 to 42.5. Consumer confidence among women rose 4.8%, compared with a 2.4% increase among men. Men, meanwhile, became less pessimistic about major purchases, pushing their durable goods score up 6.6%. In contrast, consumers aged 18 to 24 experienced its sharpest decline, with confidence weakening across all three components. By ethnicity, consumers of Creole descent recorded a 10.8% increase in confidence, rising from 39.1 to 43.4. Conversely, confidence among consumers of Garifuna descent fell 10.7% from 42.6 to 38. August is observed as World Breastfeeding Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about the benefits of breastfeeding, addressing stigma, and strengthening support systems for mothers, families, and communities. This year's theme, Breastfeeding for a Sustainable Start in Life, Strengthen What Works, highlights the importance of ensuring mothers have the knowledge, support, and resources needed to successfully breastfeed. As part of this year's observances, 6 healthcare professionals today completed a national breastfeeding lactation counselor training, strengthening Belize's capacity to provide specialized support to breastfeeding mothers. The training was organized through a collaboration between the Ministry of Health and Wellness, UNICEF, PAHO, and Instituto de Nutrición de Centroamérica y Panamá, INCAP, with the aim of equipping healthcare workers with the skills to guide mothers through common breastfeeding challenges and provide evidence-based counseling. Health and Wellness Minister Honorable Kevin Bernard emphasized the importance of having trained professionals who can support mothers and encourage breastfeeding from the earliest stages of a child's life.
Well, of course, as you know, in 2024, we launched our breastfeeding policy in terms of making sure that women, as I said, are supported in this country, especially our breastfeeding women. And so this is part of that, that support based on the policy, where we had lactation counselors who were trained to provide that additional support in our regions for mothers. I must take this opportunity to thank all our partners, PAHO, UNICEF, the ministry staff, Ms. Robin, who is a technical director for nutrition in the ministry, INCAP, but of course our community health workers and our health professionals in the region and across the country for their consistent support. And I think in the short clip that Ms. Robin highlighted today, showcase that commitment and that dedication in achieving and ensuring that we're following what the policy direction is in terms of breastfeeding. And so I am very happy to be here to support. And as the minister, of course, we are here to ensure that we give the support at every level, both from the directorship level, from the ministerial level, to cabinet level, for these type of initiatives that will only bring betterment and to promote a healthier breastfeeding policy, promoting healthier children, and of course healthier breastfeeding mothers. So that's what we're here to do, and I think it was a very successful training course for these 6 persons who we started off with that, and we hope that at some point we can get more that can continue to support this type of very important policy in terms of breastfeeding.
Where will they be placed?
These people, I believe, will be in the regions, and so that's why we had them from the north, the west, and southern region. So they are placed within the regional facilities, and it is our hope that they can also continue to go into the other communities, and so to further support. But as you know, we have a strong community health workers program, and they continue to also support these initiatives. As I said, this is the first start, it's the first cohort. We hope that at the next time we can see much more of our women participating and becoming.
Country Representative for UNICEF, Saeed Ali, also underscored the importance of creating supportive environments where mothers feel encouraged and empowered to breastfeed.
So UNICEF has funded this initiative, the training, 4 out of the 6 counselors. And we are very proud of that they have now completed the training, and the expectation is that they would be advocates for breastfeeding counseling, that they will encourage others to also follow through. And as we go ahead, we need to look at how we can have more of these trainings and have more counselors in the country.
How does this tie into the work that UNICEF does, ensuring that a child is being nutritionally cared for?
So UNICEF, our main objective is, of course, apart from protecting the rights of children, it's every child is healthy, every child grows, every child learns, and every child thrives. And whether it's newborn care or care later on, I think at every stage we have to make sure that, one, the system is supporting mothers and children, and also communities do and take up. I mean, breastfeeding is something which is, I would say, people take it for granted, but it can be very complex at times. I was giving my own experience of when me and my wife had a child. I mean, the support that we got from a lactation counselor was so critical. UNICEF invests a lot in childcare, and I would say even up to adolescent level, but for us, the first 5 years of the child's life are critical, and we need to be there with mothers, with their children. And I want to take this opportunity to also emphasize the role of fathers, because I think what a mother goes through and what the mother needs is the support of a father. If nothing, to just be there to make sure that the father takes care of the child and the mother.
Meanwhile, the representative from NCAP highlighted the role of trained healthcare professionals in strengthening breastfeeding support within Belize's health system.
Today, my organization is we're from the SICA region, so we cover Central America and the Dominican Republic. So we supported the participants in successfully completing this course, and this will allow them to continue trainings along the different regions here in Belize.
What is it specifically that they are now better equipped to do?
Yes, well, as you know, with nutrition and breastfeeding, it's very dynamic. So there's definitely some new information that they have learned from this course, and they will be sharing that along with the different staff here in Belize with the ministry.
The completion of the training comes as Belize joins countries around the world in observing World Breastfeeding Month, reinforcing the message that successful breastfeeding is not only dependent on mothers, but also on the support they receive from healthcare providers, families, workplaces, and communities. The Ministry of Health and Wellness says strengthening breastfeeding support remains an important part of improving maternal and child health and giving children a healthy start in life. Belize is taking steps to bolster its national disaster preparedness and response capabilities through a new 4-year partnership with the Republic of China, Taiwan. The Belize Multi-Hazard Risk Management Capacity Building Project is designed to strengthen the government of Belize's ability to identify potential hazards, issue timely warnings, and coordinate effective emergency responses when disasters occur. The partnership was formally established today through the signing of a joint memorandum of understanding. The agreement was signed by Honorable Henry Charles Usher, Minister of the Public Service, Disaster Risk Management and Enterprise, Honorable Orlando Habet, Minister of Sustainable Development, Climate Change and Solid Waste Management, and His Excellency Amino Chi, Ambassador of the Republic of China, Taiwan. The initiative will focus on improving systems for hazard monitoring, forecasting, and early warning, while also strengthening emergency management procedures. Particular attention will be placed on addressing challenges associated with flooding and wildfires, two hazards that can pose significant risk to communities, infrastructure, and Belize's natural environment.
Prepare for hurricanes, flooding, storm surge, drought, wildfires, and other hazards that can disrupt lives, damage homes and businesses, and affect our economy. We cannot stop every hazard from occurring, but we can prepare better. We can share information faster. We can strengthen our early warning systems. We can train our people, and we can make sure that our communities are better equipped to respond when something happens. That is why today's MOU is so important. It strengthens the cooperation between these two important ministries and provides a framework for us to work more closely together in areas such as capacity building, technical cooperation, information sharing, project coordination, and public awareness. Importantly, this work will not remain at the level of government offices in Belmopan. This project will reach communities in the River Valley, in Dangriga, in Sarteneja, in Belize City.
Through stronger coordination and improved technical capacity, the project is expected to help Belize better protect its communities, safeguard natural resources, and reduce the potential damage to critical infrastructure during emergencies.
In the past, Taiwan has been assisting Belize in building the capacity in flood alert system, emergency shelter maps, and river basin disaster risk management. We also work with local communities in Belize, bringing the concept of preemptive evacuation to every household in flood-prone areas. However, disaster prevention and resilience building is a long-term effort, especially when climate risks have profoundly impacted regional development and human security. In the face of climate change, we need to work closely with our partners to promote concrete climate actions. As you know, Taiwan has several typhoons and earthquakes every year, so we are more than willing to share our experience and expertise on disaster prevention and recovery with our partners.
A key component of the project will be greater cooperation among agencies responsible for disaster preparedness and environmental management. These include the National Emergency Management Organization, the National Meteorological Service, the National Hydrological Service, and the Forest Department. Over the 4-year period, the project will seek to build a more coordinated and resilient national disaster management system, equipping Belize with stronger tools and institutional capacity to anticipate hazards and respond more effectively when emergencies arise. The proposed Revenue Authority bill is coming under mounting scrutiny as opposition continues to grow over the level of power it could place in the hands of the government. UDP leader Tracy Tager Panton has become the latest political figure to raise concerns about the legislation, arguing that the bill could give the Minister of Finance extensive control over the country's revenue administration. Her obligations comes as resistance to the bill is also being expressed within the public service. Employees of the Belize Tax Service walked out of their workplace yesterday in protest of the proposed Revenue Authority bill. According to Panton, the concentration of such broad authority in one office could create significant concerns about accountability and the independence of the revenue system. She has questioned whether the proposed structure provides enough safeguards to prevent political influence from affecting the administration and collection of government revenue.
There are lots of issues with this bill. Who the bill represents in terms of which agencies the bill will be collecting resources for, and also who is controlling it. There is one person, absolutely one person, who will be making decisions, controlling the advisory committee, appointing the CEO, appointing the deputies of the CEO, deciding when and how which pieces of legislation will apply. And you know who that one person is according to the law? The Minister of Finance, who happens to be the Prime Minister of Belize.
Panton maintains that the issue goes beyond administrative reform, warning that the legislation must be examined carefully to ensure that proper checks and balances maintained in place. As the United Democratic Party UDP addresses national issues, the party is also being forced to confront serious issues within its own ranks. Its continuing leadership dispute could now have significant financial consequences, with a legal battle potentially involving more than $1.4 million. Former UDP leader Moses Shine Barrow is seeking to broaden his existing court case against Tracy Tager Panton with proposed financial claims connected to the party's leadership struggle and the October 2024 Unity Convention. The development has prompted clarification from UDP Chair Sheena Pitts, who rejected the reports that Barrow has filed an entirely new lawsuit. Speaking at a press conference yesterday, Pitt said the situation involves an attempt to modify the case that is already before the court. According to her, Barrow is seeking permission to add the financial claims to the existing proceedings rather than initiating a separate legal action.
There is no new lawsuit by Mr. Barrow against the Honorable Panton or the party. If you could recall, after the October 2024 conventions, he did take and ask the court for interim relief after we had occupied the headquarters, and we were in court for that. You saw when our lawyer flew in, and you saw when we gave interviews on it. It is that same case. He has now sought a way to change and include a claim for money as against the Honorable Panton. So there is nothing new. Same old lawsuit, and the matter is before the court. In law, we say it's sub judice, and so as a counsel, I cannot, with good sense, disclose any further than I have.
The original case has yet to be resolved, meaning that the court must first determine whether Barrow will be allowed to introduce the additional claims as part of the current matter. Belize's trade performance weakened significantly in July, with domestic export earnings falling by more than a third, as a sharp drop in sugar shipments weighed heavily on the country's traditional export sector. Sugar was responsible for much of the decline. Earnings from the commodity dropped by 18.8 million, falling from 35.8 million in July 2025 to 17 million this year. Other major export commodities also recorded losses. Citrus earnings declined by 2.4 million, largely because of the weaker sales of orange concentrate. Marine exports also weakened, generating 1.3 million less than a year earlier. The decline was attributed mainly to reduced lobster tail sales and the absence of shrimp exports in July. Several sectors, however, managed to buck the downward trend. Banana export earnings edged upward to 6.3 million, while animal feed revenue increased to 0.7 million, helped by improved prices. Belize's export losses were particularly pronounced in some of its long-standing overseas markets. Export earnings from the United Kingdom fell by $18 million, leaving total earnings at just $3.2 million. The decline was overwhelmingly linked to the reduction in sugar exports. Exports to CARICOM markets fell by 2.1 million, mainly reflecting lower orange concentrate sales. Mexico, meanwhile, moved against the broader trend. Belize's export earnings from the Mexican market more than doubled to 2.9 million, exporting, supported by increased sales of cattle and crude soybean oil. On the import side, Belize recorded a more modest decline. Total imports stood at 261.3 million in July, down from 1.9 percent from the 266.3 million registered a year earlier. A major factor behind the reduction was a decline in purchases through the commercial free zone, where imports fell by 16.3 million. Imports of food and live animals also declined, falling by 10.5 million. The reduction was associated with lower purchases of wheat, instant noodles, and coffee. Not all import categories contracted. Machinery and transport equipment imports also recorded growth, rising by $9 million. The increase was driven by purchases of power generators, the four-cylinder vehicles, and an all-terrain mobile crane. From January through July, Belize imported $1.912 billion worth of merchandise, representing a 15.7% increase compared with the same period in 2025. Fuel accounted for a significant portion of the increase. Exports, by contrast, moved in the opposite direction. Merchandise exports totaled $205.2 million during the first 7 months of the year, down 18.6% from the corresponding period last year. Sugar remained the largest source of pressure within the export sector. Sugar earnings for the year-to-date period were 26.8 million lower, as the quantity exported declined by nearly 30%. The figures point to continued pressure on Belize's merchandise trade, with weaker earnings from key agricultural and marine commodities contrasting with rising import costs, particularly for fuel. While gains in cattle, bananas, and selected other products provided some relief, they were not enough to offset the sharp contraction in sugar and other major traditional exports. As the municipal elections draw closer, questions are being raised about whether the opposition has sufficient funds to recruit candidates, support their campaigns, and operate the political machinery required across the municipalities throughout the country. Reports suggest that under the leadership of Tracy Tigger-Panton, the party is struggling to secure the campaign financing needed to mount a nationwide political effort. But according to Tigger-Panton, the UDP will not approach the upcoming elections without the resources, candidates, or organizational structure necessary to compete.
There's been a lot of noise about the ability of the United Democratic Party to be able to have municipal slates in 9 municipalities, because according to the noise, we can't afford to bring the slates together and effectively compete. In March of 2027, I hope we can put that issue definitively to rest.
And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
Belize Medical Associates, Regent Street, NHI, was one of the first clinics, so we were here from the inception of NHI in 1993. We've been all this time up to today, providing services. As services have been added on, we have cooperated fully with the NHI program.
Because I can visit the NHI clinic here with a minimal outlay of costs, I think it's an advantage for not only myself but anybody who is enrolled in the NHI program. Before I enrolled in NHI, any medical attention, I had to go to the physician to get the attention, and that had a cost to it. And even when I enrolled in NHI, I had a small co-payment that I had to pay. It wasn't much, but when I reached the age of 60, the benefits improved even more because it meant that my medical attention was cost-free, my medication was cost-free, and so it has gone from one strength to another for me.
Health and Wellness Minister Honorable Kevin Bernard today confirmed that the estimated 100 members of the Cuban Medical Brigade currently serving in Belize remain in country. His comments come following recent speculation that Cuban doctors and nurses are being gradually sent back to Cuba. He explained that the situation involving boxes being shipped to Cuba was taken out of context and incorrectly interpreted as evidence that members of the brigade were leaving Belize.
Response yesterday, and it's so unfortunate to see somebody taking something out of context. The Cuban people who are here in Belize, they travel every year on vacation on different time of the year. Not everybody could go on vacation at the same time, and normally it is a norm that when they go back, they will take items to their families. So for Mr. Mejia, and I'll call his name because that was very responsible of him to go on social media, trying to paint a picture and as if it's facts. When that is far from true, these people are in our system working at this point in time. And as I said yesterday in response to the two media houses who reached out to me, there are ongoing diplomatic talks, that is, when it relates to the Cuban Brigade. These people continue to be employed and continue to work across our health system here in Belize. And we are hoping that at the end of the day, when these diplomatic talks are over, we can find an amicable solution as it relates to the Cuban Brigade. But I will continue to say that we appreciate the support that the Cuban people have been given to Belize, and there is no truth to us sending Cubans home one by one, as was insinuated in that social media post.
While the medical brigade remains in Belize, Minister Bernard says discussions are continuing regarding its future in the country. He explained that the matter is expected to go before Cabinet for further discussion towards the end of September.
Well, it's not, remember, these are fluid discussions that has to be taking place, and I know through the foreign ministry there's a lot of discussion back and forth that we're talking about, talking to both the Cuban government in terms of how we will treat this program. As I said, I do want to say something that all the details that are not shared with me at this point in time, but all I can tell you that there have been some great discussions, both from the Cuban government, the embassy, through the embassy, and of course the Belizean government, who is reaching out at the same time. And I will only say this, that again, these people have been here over many years, and the ones that are here right now on the program continue to be employed by the government of Belize and continue to provide that health service that we so desperately need, and to ensure that they are helping us to fill the human resource gaps across.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is working to strengthen Belize's own healthcare workforce by providing opportunities for local health workers to receive specialized training.
Remember what the government, what the ministry is doing now, apart from let's move aside from the Cuban Brigade, but we have constantly been doing things as a ministry. One, we've been sending out our doctors to be specialized. I know that right now we have about, I think, 5 doctors who will be coming back, 2 in nephrology, I think 2 in obstetrics, and I think 1 pediatrician. We had recently Dr. Kawich, who is a pediatric oncologist, who came back, and she's now at KHMH, and others that are out training in radiology and so forth in Taiwan. We will have some of these people coming back, but that's just a part of ensuring that we are equipping our doctors. But at the same time, the government is also looking at alternative areas and countries that we can tap into. For example, in our recent visit in Honduras, we have the opportunity where we're hoping that after further discussions, because we just started the discussion, we could look at our Belizeans to be able to have access as well to do their residency program there in Honduras. We are looking at the Philippines, for example, to getting some nurses from Philippines to come in and help to fill the gaps. We have been discussing with the Nicaraguan government, as well, to try and see how we could get some specialized doctors to come in to fill the gaps. There's need for us to be able to fill these human. We are even looking at our partners in Mexico, and so we have not been sitting down, but at the same time, the government also, and I think I mentioned this in an interview before, the government had approved through cabinet $30 million investment program over a 10-year period for the next 10 years, where we will put out more training opportunities, more scholarship opportunities for our people to be able to be trained in nursing, in other specialty. And so we want to ensure that when you look down the road in Belize in the next 10 years, we have equipped individuals to fill those gaps. Because as you know, we have health professionals who are aging as well, and they will be retiring. So we have to fill that gap. And so it's a cycle. It's constant.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and New Growth Industries has announced a slight decrease in the control prices for liquefied petroleum gas (LPG), which are set to take effect on Friday, August 28, 2026, following adjustments in acquisition cost. According to the Supplies Control Unit (SCU), the updated pricing structure reflects the sale of LPG by volume at the wholesale level and by volume and weight at the retail level, applying to both urban and rural areas across the country. At the import wholesale level, the control price has been set at $4.32 per gallon for all districts, including Belize, Cayo, Orange Walk, Corozal, Stand Creek, and Toledo. For retail sales in urban areas, LPG will be sold at $1.35 per pound, equivalent to $5.92 per gallon, in major towns and cities such as Belize City, Bauapan, San Ignacio, Benqueviejo del Carmen, Orange Walk Town, Corozal Town, Dangriga, and Punta Gorda. In rural areas nationwide, the retail price has been set slightly higher at $1.38 per pound, or $6.02 per gallon, reflecting distribution and logistical costs. The ministry explained that the adjustment represents a decrease on the current shipment, driven primarily by lower acquisition prices on the international market. Officials also reminded the public that the controlled prices apply only to LPG imported under the 70-30 propane to butane mixture in accordance with the Belize National Standard Specification for LPG. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Friday, August 28th here on CTV3 News and Face FM 106.7. Remember that to read the text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/CTV3BelizeNews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. From all of us here at CTV3, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.